Hello everybody, and today I'm going to be reviewing Clockwork Angel. This is the first book in the Infernal Devices series, which is a prequel series to the Mortal Instruments series. The book takes place in London in the year 1878, I believe. The story follows a girl named Tessa Gray who, once her aunt dies, she moves from New York to London to live with her brother. But once there, she is kidnapped by these evil sisters. They call themselves the Dark Sisters. When she gets to London, her life is just one tragedy after another. These things keep happening to her until she is eventually saved by Will. I'm going to have two sections for this book. There's going to be a non-spoiler section in the front where I'm just going to tell you my thoughts about the book, and I'll let you know before I get to any spoils. The first thing I want to talk about is how the book started for me. It took me probably about anywhere between 150 to 200 pages to actually get into this book because it started very slow. But I really loved the setting and the world building she did. There was a few things. It takes place in London, and I've always wanted to visit London, which I know is probably never going to happen. But it's just one place I've always wanted to visit. And I love how she described everything right, like without taking up 4 or 5 pages of detail to describe it. She described everything in like maybe a paragraph, and it really gave you a clear picture of what things looked like in your mind. At least it did for me, and I love that. Now I want to talk a little bit about the characters, starting with Tessa. I really liked Tessa in this book. I mean, of course, you like her, she's the main character. If you didn't like her, it wouldn't be a very good book. But I didn't feel like we actually got to learn much about her supernatural-wise. She was if I was in her position, I would not have been able to stay as strong as she did. So as a character, I love how strong yet vulnerable she is, because it's not like she's going all through this crap and it just rolls off her back. She actually just keeps it all bottled in, and when she's in front of people, and then it like explodes out of her when she's alone. Jem, I love Jem. I really did. I felt sorry for him because of the situation he was in, and after hearing more about him, I felt more sorry for him. But that wasn't really what made me like him. It was the fact that he was such a gentleman that made me like him so much. I mean, he was actually nice. I mean, you don't run into nice shadow hunters that often. Usually they're stuck-up snobs. So, no offense, shadow hunters, but it's true. And Will is a good example of I didn't really like Will at all in this book. He started out all right. I thought, I had just some Jace feels from him, which makes sense, because they're related. But overall, after he saved Tessa, I didn't really like him very much. He seemed very cold and distant and hostile for no reason, or at least not for reasons that we understand at this point in this book. We don't understand why he is the way he is. So I'm hoping to start to like him in the next book, but right now he's just not my favorite character. Charlotte and Henry were such good characters to me. It's like they're not much older than the main characters. I don't know how old Henry is, but Charlotte's only a few years older than the main characters, and she's very mature, and she seems like the older mother of the group, so you'd think she would be older, and it makes me like her better, because I mean, and if you think of the year 1878 and the fact that women were really repressed in that time period, she really has to prove herself, and she does it in such a way without offending anybody that it just makes me really respect her character, and I'm hoping to see a lot more of her in the next books. Please do not kill her. We don't really learn a lot about Henry, but I do like him, and I really like his and Charlotte's relationship. I think they really go good together, even though we really don't see many interactions between them. Jessamine. I'm not really liking Jessamine so much in this first book, and I'm hoping that changes because I've heard quite a few people makes such good remarks about her, and she seems just so selfish and self-centered and materialistic, which I understand she doesn't want to be a shadow hunter, but it's like really the way she is. I mean, I like how she, when the time comes, she really steps up, and that shadow hunter blood of hers just really comes out, but still not liking her very much. The last character I want to talk about is Nate. I didn't really like him to begin with because he seemed so physically weak that I just didn't like him at all. It seems to me there's a point when you're supposed to grow up, and he stopped right before crossing that line. Now I'm ready to get into the spoilery section, so if you have not read this book, bye! Okay, the first thing I want to talk about is the plot. This plot gave me such a dark feel, and it could have been the fact that the setting was in London, and it's a very dark and dreary place most of the time, you know, because of the weather. But everything from start to finish in this book seemed very, very dreary and dark and not very happy. It's like you start out right away with a kidnapping and demon slaying. It's like, you know, that's a normal way to start your Monday, isn't it? But then as the plot progresses, everything gets more dark. And even in the very end, when you're supposed to have a happy ending, it's still dark, basically because I'm sorry for anyone who liked Will in this book. I mean, I'm hoping I'll start to like Will in the Clockwork Prince and Clockwork Princess, but right now I didn't like him, and to me, he made almost a bad situation worse, which I guess is one of the things that he's trying to do, you know, like push people away from him, and doing that, he's the way he is, but so frustrating. So to me, it just seems like he made a bad situation worse, and it made the plot even darker. But overall, I think the plot, it progressed very nicely. Like I said before, it started out very slow for me, and it was kind of hard to get into at first, but it always kept you guessing at the same time. It's like, I did not know. Usually I can see a plot twist coming way before it happens, and this plot twist caught me off guard, not in a mind-blowing way. I've actually while I was reading, I tabbed a lot of things that I wanted to talk about. I probably won't talk about all of them, don't worry. One of the first things I happened to tab was where Tessa and Will met for the first time. And in this point of the book, I mean, she's still been kidnapped by the Dark Sisters, and she's trying to escape. And while she's trying to escape, Will just happens to walk through the door, and she hits him with a jug. Makes him bleed. You know, that's the best way to meet the male lead character in my book. Hit him with something and make him bleed. So I really love that. And at this point, I liked Will. I was kind of upset that she hit him, but once I got to know Will, I was kind of happy she hit him, and I was kind of hoping she'd hit him again at some point, and so was she, from the internal dialogue we were hearing from her. And this isn't something big, but it's something that was around page 145. They're talking about the Warlock rings, and did anybody but me have a flashback to the Mortal Instruments series with this? And then at the end of the book, that's how Mortman got away, and it's like, oh my goodness, really? I knew he was gonna get away. I just didn't know how he was gonna get away, because if he didn't get away, it's like, okay, then who's gonna be the main villain in the next two books? So I knew he was gonna get away in the end, but I didn't expect that. I didn't even know that normal mundanes could actually use those, and I'm starting to wonder what Mortman actually is. And he's making me really question what Tessa is. Tessa as Camille. That shocked me. I knew she could transform into other people, and she could like touch their thoughts or their conscious mind or their unconscious mind, whatever you want. I don't know how to really describe it, but when she actually changed into Camille, I didn't expect her to actually not have a heartbeat, to actually become a vampire. It made me think, okay, if she drinks blood, will that make her sick when she turns back, or will it have no effect on her? And then I also got to thinking about other warlocks. Could she use their magic? Or werewolves? Could she actually transform into a wolf? And it's just questions that I hope are brought up in Clockwork. It's just questions that I hope are answered in Clockwork Prince and Clockwork Princess, because it seemed like that would be a really good twist to her power. And then we have one of my favorite parts of the book, when Magnus comes in. I was so excited when I first read Magnus's name on the page. I was like, yes, Magnus. He's one of my favorite characters from the Mortal Instruments series. And I love the fact that he's in this series. I don't like the fact that he's with Camille, but I knew that was going to happen. But one of the things that I loved about this book is when he's telling Tessa, black hair and blue eyes are my favorite combination. And it's like, Alec! And I had to literally stop reading and just have a little fangirl moment because I ship Malik. They're my OTP. I just love them so much. I want a book series just dedicated to Malik. Is that a thing? Can that be a thing, please? One of the things that really made me see the connection between Jace and Will is Jace's interactions with Gabriel Lightwood, which I love the fact that Lightwoods are in here, but they're buttholes. I don't really like them very much. Will says, "Oh, I can never get enough," which incidentally is what your sister said to me when, and then Jim pulls him into the carriage. It's like, yes, please get him out of there. And there's just moments like that just crack me up. I mean, it didn't make me like Will as a character anymore. I mean, I do love his sarcasm when he's interacting with other characters. It's just when he's interacting with Tessa that I don't like him at all. My favorite interaction between Tessa and Will was actually the library scene. My least favorite, it's struck between two. The first one is the kiss. It's my, where Tessa basically blames herself for the kiss and everything, and she's thinking, oh, I should have been the one to push away and everything, and when Will was, and Will really didn't do anything to indicate to her that it wasn't her fault, it was actually his fault, and it was his fault. My second least favorite scene between them was actually at the end when he's being a douche, and let's see, where is it? He's talking about how they can have a relationship, and he's talking about a physical relationship and how they should go to her room and everything, and he says, you are not entirely, and she's wondering what the hell he's talking about, and he's like, you cannot pretend you don't know. You are not entirely ignorant of the world, I think, Tessa, not with that brother of yours. And it's like you cannot judge her on her brother. Will says near the end, there is no future for a shadow hunter who dallies with warlocks. One might befriend them, employ them, but not, and then Tessa's like, marry them? And Will's just like, how forward? It's like, really? Then the part that really made me hate Will, when Tessa tells him that she did not expect him to insult her, he says, it cannot be the unwanted consequence of a dalliance that concerns you, Will mused, since warlocks are unable to have children. And that was like a slap in the face because she didn't know about that, and he was just being openly cruel about it, and even afterwards he didn't apologize or try to comfort her or anything. He just went on being a butthole, and that's what really made me hate Will. So at this point I'm shipping Tessa and Jem. I'm hoping I like Will more in the next few books, or I may throw the books. And then Mortman as Magister. I did not see that coming. I didn't think De Quincey was like the head honcho over everything. I never really believed that after they found him in his house and everything, and they tricked him and actually killed all the vampires except him that were in there. So I didn't actually think that De Quincey was the head honcho over the Pandemonium Club, but I never thought it was Mortman. That was just a twist that I never saw coming. And then Thomas's death. I loved Thomas as a character, and for him to die the way he did, to me, was just so heartbreaking. I'm glad he got a Shadow Hunter's funeral, really, but I didn't want him to die. I wanted him and Sophie to get together and, you know, be all happy and everything, and it's just, no, I didn't want it to end like that for him, especially considering he kind of was left behind by Will for like a new shiny toy when Jim came by. It's like, ooh, Jim's the new shiny toy. I'm just gonna throw my old toy away and not really have anything to do with him. And there's so many moments where you get the feeling that Thomas is just like really, really lonely, and I hated when he died. I actually had to stop reading and cry a little bit when he died. It's something that really, really I just loved and never saw coming as well. It was when Tessa was gonna stab herself. I was wondering, why did she turn around to stab herself? And then we learned that she'd actually transformed into one of the ladies that was covered in blood that the Dark Sisters tortured her into turning into. And it covered her in blood. When we found all that out in the end, how she thought this on the fly, and I was just, oh my god, that's such good thinking. I was like, go Tessa! I loved how Will was really emotional when that happened, so that kind of made me like him a little more until the end when he did that little whole children thing to Tessa. I just couldn't keep it in. I squealed a little bit. I was like, that was such a smart idea. I love strong female characters like Tessa that do quick thinking like that. It just made me love her character that much more. I'm very happy with the way that she got out of that situation, and it kind of makes me wonder how in the later books everything's going to turn out, since Mortman thinks she's dead, so that's going to leave it on the cliffhanger, but I'm kind of happy about that cliffhanger. And the last thing I want to talk about is the epilogue. Probably the smallest epilogue that ever happened in one of her books, and it's Will going to Magnus for help, for what reasons we do not know. And that just really gets me thinking about Clockwork Prince, and I'm really wanting to dive into it right away so I can learn exactly what's going on. Because why would Will need Magnus's help? He seems like a character that wouldn't want any help from anybody. Overall, it was a slow start, but I love the book. So if you have not read this book, please go read it. If you have not read this book and you're still watching the video at this point, why are you still watching this video? Well, my battery's dying, so until next time, guys, bye!